Two movies, three rounds, one winner. Welcome to the Movie Battle Podcast.
And it's Friday, and it's another edition, and I'm joined by,
The one and only Eamon.
and I'm the one of many, Liam.
Welcome.
Welcome. Last week was the Raid versus Dread, and now talk about a huge shift,
A
huge
slight
jump.
turn in style and in theme. And,
I think in every capacity.
I think there's almost nothing similar in any way. Well, they're both films,
Yeah, that's probably
They're
the
both-
only. And
movies,
I was going to say they were all American movies, but they're not, because the Raid was
Indonesian,
Yes.
and directed by a Welshman. Written and directed by a Welshman, so in no way American.
So you're really struggling to find any similarities at all, apart from they're all films.
Yes, that's about it, really.
But look, they all count. I think it's kind of a cool way to show that we're trying to, as we kind of you alluded to it slightly last week, we're trying to be diverse in terms of what we watch and what we kind of review and compare. So I think it's a cool thing to do, to really jump and shift from one kind of genre of film to another of this
Yeah,
magnitude. You know?
I think keeps it interesting for us, and hopefully keeps it interesting for the viewers or the listeners, or both. If you're watching it on YouTube, all power to you for sitting through a still image for an hour and 58 minutes. But but if not, I understand. I don't take offense for not staring at that still image for 2 hours. But
in case you didn't know what that you didn't know what the titles are, if you've been listening and you haven't noticed the titles, the films that we are reviewing and comparing are
these things.
Wall-E, which came out in 2008 and was directed by Andrew Stanton, up against Up, directed by Pete Docter. I think it's Docter.
Pete Docter.
Docter, yeah, this is
Yeah,
me instead of no.
yeah.
Which came out in 2009, a year later. I didn't realize that they were actually, I knew they were both kind of late 2000s, but I didn't realize there was just a year between them. I thought Wall-E maybe by about 2006, but it was 2008. So
Yeah, in my mind, I always had Up first because I saw Up in cinema, because I'd kind of forgotten. I kind of forgotten how good Pixar were. Obviously back in the day, I saw Toy Story, saw Toy Story 2. Although I don't think I really saw it in full. I think I saw a bit of Toy Story 2. I think I saw it in school or something. And we had to, it was typical, you see half of a movie and then go on to the next class or whatever, for a couple of free classes. But yeah, so I kind of forgot that Pixar made amazing movies. And then on a whim, just on I think the trailer said, "Oh, me and a buddy of mine, let's go see that movie Up and see what it looks interesting enough." And I know I'm not starting with Up, but just that what got me back into Pixar. And then I went on to Wall-E. I found Wall-E after I found Up, so I always associate Up earlier than Wall-E, but Wall-E was the film released first.
just out of curiosity, you said that it got you back into Pixar. Aside from Toy Story, what other Pixar films had you seen at that point?
I think I'd only seen Toy Story and Toy Story 2. I think I saw Monsters Inc. as well, but I watched it again as an adult, and I think I feel like I only fully understood it as an adult. I think the same with Toy Story, less so, because it's a story of friendship, which is themes that I kind of relate to any age. But Monsters Inc. deals with look, we're not reviewing Monsters Inc.
Yeah.
Monsters Inc. is another film that I think we could have done, in this episode, and I'd love to do in the future.
With that, I think we'll jump in.
Yeah,
we'll jump into it.
So, round one, music, and the music for Wall-E. The score for Wall-E, because there is other songs used.
There's some songs in there.
Yeah, there was a soundtrack as well as a score, but the score was composed by Thomas Newman, and it grabs you straight away for me. When it opens up on actually, it's not Thomas Newman that grabs you, but it is the I'd never seen or heard. I'd heard of Hello Dolly, this is the movie that the song is taken from. Open was it no? Put on your Sunday clothes. It's called. Um, it's taken from the musical Hello Dolly. I'd heard of Hello Dolly, but I'd never seen it. I'm not really a musical fan. You're not either.
Well, is that the song that opens the film?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's interesting because when it started, what went through my head was like, oh god, no, not a musical.
Really?
That's the first. No, that was the first thing I thought. I was like, oh god, I just heard this song and I was like, oh, there's gonna be a lot of singing in this. song.
Pixar don't do musicals.
Yeah, that's what went through my head internally. Like I was like, oh no, but the song actually didn't really grow on me as the
Yeah.
film went on. It actually is a really good song. I think I was just expecting when I heard it initially. I was like, just got worried. I was like, I hate musicals. Like there's some really good Disney films, but I would fast forward the songs usually. Except Scar's one. And
Really?
Scar's one and The Lion King is fantastic, but usually
What about Hakuna Matata? You skip past that?
it's okay. Like that was fine, but just a
Or
lot
the Circle of Life?
Mm.
You don't
But
think
that's
Circle
not
of
really a
Life is good?
musical. That's just a song in the film.
Yeah, but I mean, it's.
I'm
part-
talking about when the character starts singing.
I know.
and,
I know what you
know.
mean. It is a little different, but I don't know.
Anyway, I really like the song. It just initially that's
Okay,
what I thought. But as it
we'll
went on, I
discuss that
yeah.
another time. Maybe we'll do Aladdin versus the Lion King or something. But yeah. So it opens up with that song from Hello Dolly, and the juxtaposition is a word that you've probably heard me use. I think every week. I love that word. I think I use it a lot, but I like when I see it in things. So the juxtaposition of the chirpy, happy music as we see this beautiful, majestic, solar display, and then we just zoom in through the filth of the state of the earth, and then you have this happy, happy music playing over the sad, somber state of the earth. It grabs you, and then it actually really kind of has a point to it. I thought it worked really well in quickly setting up the scene. Obviously, the visuals play a massive part as well, but it worked really well. But then after, after the Hello Dolly bit, then Thomas Newman's score comes in, and you have that shot of Wally just as he's descending this giant skyscraper of rubbish that he has assembled over. I mean, I don't know how long it would take him to do that. I mean, I know he's been working for around 700 years. Wally has.
Well, this was interesting because I was going to ask, because I didn't just a note taken down for obviously it's for later, but just about Wally. But I wonder how long he'd been.
Yeah,
there,
because they have the dates of the captains later on in the movie. They show the dates of when each captain served, and they show the newest captain, and I can't remember what it is. It's like 26 something, so it's around 700 years.
So he's been there a long time. Then.
Yeah. So I mean, and so when you see him descend that skyscraper of rubbish, and then he's driving through this post-apocalyptic world, because that's exactly what it is. It's a post-apocalyptic film, and that sad, eerie music as we see him.
Yeah, they have like a really nice there's like a really nice kind of it's like an echo effect they kind of use, or like sometimes we call it the arena effect.
You refer to it,
but
yeah,
that was really cool. I thought, the way they used that. I think they were using the song again for that too, as well.
They did. What they had was, I love when it was Wally's recording of the song. So he was playing it back, and that's why it kind of fades in and out as he cuts around corners, and as he kind of comes towards us, you hear the "Put on Your Sunday Clothes" song come back in, because Wally loves the song and he loves listening to it while he works, like we all do. We all put on music while we work, and he was putting on that because it made him happy.
Our podcast.
What?
Our podcast.
Our podcast. Maybe he'll listen to us next week. Yeah, so I loved the mood set by that straight away. It was just the Put on Your Sunday Clothes and then Newman's score coming in. I thought it worked really, really well.
It was a nice bit when Eve first comes into it, where you kind of see her kind of flying around, and he's kind of looking on in awe and wonder. And it's just kind of like, again, the music kind of encapsulates that kind of sense of awe and wonder that he's feeling in the music. So the music kind of really brought that to the fore. I thought.
The one with it's like the harp strings, and then the other instruments come in afterwards as she's soaring through, and he has the moment when Wally, I think that's the moment when he falls for her.
Mhm.
Like he was interested and he was intrigued because obviously he's so lonely. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe he's not seen. I know he has his pet, the cockroach, which
cockroach,
he's
yeah.
just found, which I think is hilarious. That the only thing left alive on the earth. I mean, there isn't even plants, but there's still a cockroach left. One cockroach. Because that's the joke is that the only thing left after nuclear, post-apocalypse is cockroaches. Because they're so resilient. I mean, that's the joke kind of in a lot of pop culture. But yeah, so he's obviously intrigued by this being coming down. But I think that scene when she flies and soars through the air so majestically, that's when he falls for her. And the music that accompanies that flight, it really is quite beautiful. And it actually comes back in, jumping a little bit ahead, but it actually comes back in later when, remember, after Wally saves the plant after the robot had thrown it out into space with him, and he escapes with the plant, and Eve is so happy that he has saved it, and they kiss, and they, well, can touch faces, and then they start dancing. And in that, when they start dancing, it is a different version of Eve's theme plays, and it's actually, I think, even a better version. There's like it's like it sounds more complex, so I think it kind of symbolizes that it's Eve and Wally this time dancing together. Previously, it was just Eve, but now it's Eve and Wally coming together, I think it's probably, I think, even a better version of it, and it's just beautiful. It
Yeah,
really, really is.
there was definitely nice, like the music kind of, I guess Wally and Eve's theme together
Yeah,
was nice, and I really liked the, what was the name of the song again? But it was,
put on your Sunday
yeah,
clothes.
that was really good as well.
Yeah, and then they also, just so you're going back a little bit, but remember when Wally first goes back to his little apartment, and we will see him watching Hello Dolly, and the song there is a different song. It's what is it? It only takes a moment, and that's the one where they're holding hands. That is the one that really that kind of sticks with him more so. There's two different songs from Hello Dolly used in the film, but it only takes a moment is the one that kind of sells the romantic endeavor
Yeah,
for him. The romantic element. And I love that they use, because obviously, and something I didn't even realize it until afterwards. I was reading what well, actually no, it was a documentary I watched afterwards, one of the behind the scenes documentaries, and Stanton talks about how there, I'm not sure. I don't think it was that Pixar were reluctant, but I think he was saying that at most other studios there would be reluctance when you're putting forward a movie that has no words for 20 minutes.
yeah, that's something I'm actually going to touch on.
Yeah, no, we'll get back to that
mm,
later. But because of the fact that Wally doesn't speak, you have to convey emotion. So they use obviously his sounds and
well,
his
his
things,
eyes
but
definitely.
his eyes. But they also use the pop culture and this movie. So by them, having that beautiful romantic song, by having them holding hands, and then Wally moved down to mimic it, you learn immediately that, oh, that's what he's looking for. He's looking for love. He's looking for companionship. And so it was a great use of that song and the movie to kind of help them express something that Wally couldn't vocally.
Mhm.
I thought it was done really well.
The music then that kind of went around the ship, kind of for the action, I guess, kind of, it's they weren't as memorable. Not that they were
No,
bad, but
yeah,
they didn't stand out. They wouldn't
they didn't stand
stood
out.
out to me.
But what did stand out to me was the music when as Wally is attached to the ship that's carrying Eve and they soar through the galaxy. I thought that was very nice as they're flying along. But the one that really stood out to me was when they approached the Axiom ship for the first time, and that triumphant theme plays. It immediately reminded me of Star Trek, like a DS9 type, theme, or TNG
Hmm.
theme. It felt, and I think that was definitely because there's a lot of references to sci-fi throughout the movie.
Well, even the intro, like, I know it's more visuals, I guess, but when they showed the space at the very beginning, I was just thinking of the Star Trek intros. Next
Yeah, yeah.
Generation, DS9, Voyager.
2001 is a huge one as well.
Mm.
We will go into it later. But actually, I thought the theme had elements of 2001 and elements of like 90s Star Trek.
Hmm.
Um, and that struck me straight away. Even a little bit of Star Wars, but we're more Star Trek fans, and
Yeah.
that's what grabbed me more. My first instinct was DS. Actually, it sounded like DS9. That's there. It's the theme to DS9. So I really like that as well. I like the nod to the pop culture because Wally, obviously. I will go into Wally later,
Mhm.
but yeah, no, I thought it was great.
And move on to Up.
Yeah, no, well, I just did a couple of other
Oh,
things.
sorry. Work
Yes,
away.
what? Yeah. So there's the when uh when the captain is fighting back against Otto. When Otto is trying when Wally
Stop
is
him with
yeah, when Wally's
the.
holding up the machine
Mm.
just barely, and Otto is trying to crush him,
Mm-hmm.
and the captain's trying to fight him, and he's falling down. And obviously, at this point, humans can't walk because of the bone structure and the lack of gravity. Their bodies have changed, and he stands up for the first time. And when he stands, there's the theme of 2001: A Space Odyssey. You know, the Ric
Yeah,
Flair
yeah,
theme for
yeah.
you, Liam.
I know.
Yeah, because you haven't seen 2001, amazingly.
I know
Just
that scene. I know
yeah,
the
yeah,
scene.
yeah, yeah. So, so that is complete 2001, and Otto is clearly modeled on Hal, um, robot
From the
or
yeah the
AI
yeah
from
yeah.
2001. Like literally, the circle inside is the
Mm-hmm.
exact same as Hal. Um, so that was a lovely moment. And then also finally the last bit was when after Eve saves Wally, and but when he comes back, he's no longer Wally. He's just a lifeless robot, and there is this sadness. There's this piercing music playing, and it becomes like one instrument on one note, just like like a sting almost, just hovering there, and just fades sadly away, and then into the background of the wind blowing. I thought it was really really well done. It was really subtle, really
Because
sad.
it kind of symbolizes his
Yeah, well,
humanity seeping away, kind of,
yeah,
like the way
I think even probably more
at least
so. I
initially.
think for us and for Eve, watching and seeing that this robot that we've fall in love with throughout this film gone. The character that is so endearing, he's just wiped away, and that music I felt captured that moment perfectly. But yeah, okay, that's it for me on Wally. So we can move on to Up. Up. Do you want to start on Up?
Well, you usually know the composer's name.
Okay.
That's your
Okay, so Up was composed by Michael Giacchino.
We
There's
just always go
always
that way.
one name.
Oh, he did music for Lost.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. Yeah, so Michael Giacchino composed. He won the Oscar for this.
Did he? I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, he won the Oscar for this.
Well, the music theme for like him and Ellie, that piano kind of piece.
Yeah.
That's a really like, it's kind of I guess that's the focal point of from the music point of view. I guess
It
of the
is.
film,
It's interesting.
because you come back to it so many
I
times.
don't. Yeah, I don't feel I've noticed that before in a film where I would say 80% of the score is a variation on a theme played in so many different styles. Like I was going back and like just listening to it and kind of remembering, what it's used for. And I mean, it's used for like to evoke fear, happiness, excitement, adventure, longing, sadness, and it does all of them
Mhm.
phenomenally well. I can't think of another film or another score that does that. It was quite to me quite unique. I mean, I could be wrong, and maybe there are other films that have done it, or maybe I just didn't notice it. But I can't think of another one that did it, and if it did it so well.
And I think as well, what was good about it is it kind of it kept like the helped to kind of keep the essence of Ellie
Yes.
in the story, even
Yeah.
though she's only really in it for the first 10 minutes, but between the music and then obviously Carol kind of with the pictures of her and thinking back and looking at the albums, you feel her presence throughout the film, even though she's only in it really for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think even less. But yeah, you're dead right. I completely agree on that. Um, it's uh, yeah, it keeps her there. It keeps her present because I mean I know obviously the house represents her as well, and obviously her photos and the adventure book, my adventure book.
And even I know I kind of got ahead, but even Russell.
Yeah, no, yeah, well, and we'll get into that
Yeah.
later. But definitely, she is in that. That is them. That is the two of them combined, and their love stays present throughout the film through that music and the reuse of that music over and over again. But not in ever. Did I not once did I think, oh God, again with this? Not
Mhm.
once. It totally completely worked.
There's a scene as well where when the house when he at first when he telling the two guys work from the nursing home.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll be out in a minute. I just gonna kind of say last
Yeah.
look around the house, and then he goes up into the sky. Obviously, it's the first time he ascends with
Yeah.
it, and then there's that music playing, and maybe it's because the scene reminded me of when do you remember the end of Willy Wonka where they go through the glass.
I thought that
roof?
as well.
I just
thought
thought
it
the music
reminded
felt
me.
the same, but also the
Yes.
scene felt the same.
Yeah.
Like I wonder was that like a subtle nod to
I'd say
that?
it might have been because I heard the same thing.
That music they used in Willy Wonka.
Yeah,
I hear
yeah,
that
yeah.
in
It
as
very
well.
much felt like the 1970s Willy
Mm.
Wonka.
60s, I think it was.
Is it 60s?
Maybe it was 70s. It could be
I
70s.
feel like it's 70s, but you could be
Yeah.
right. I feel like it's 70s.
Late
but,
60s, early 70s. Really.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I completely agree. A couple other little things that I noticed, and we can kind of come back to the main theme because that's basically
That's the main kind of.
that's basically the movie.
Yeah.
But there was two bits that stood out to me. One less so, but I enjoyed it. Was the music during the lightning scene? I thought it captured the mood well. I mean, I think it was pretty standard, but it did a great job of elevating and escalating the tension during that scene. But the one that really stood out to me outside of out of the variations of the main theme, I wonder if you noticed it, was the music when after the dogs capture Russell and Carol, and they take them to Munce's cave, and just as before Munce comes out and reveals himself to Carol, as they're approaching the cave, with all the rocks, different
Yeah.
shapes and stuff like that, the music that plays really reminded me of King Kong. It had that tribal adventure, classic Hollywood adventure style to it, and if you remember, like at the start of the movie, which we can get into a little later, but the start of the movie starts off with that film reel. It says it is a reference to Prohibition. So it's 1930s, more than likely. So, which is 1933 when King Kong came out. We know very well that fact because we reviewed a few weeks ago. But so it like Munce was on his adventures exactly when King Kong came out. So I thought it was a clear nod to King Kong and that era of film that I'm sure young Carl would have seen as well, and loved King Kong. I mean, and Ellie, both of them would have seen and loved the King Kong movies and the other adventure movies that followed King Kong's lead at that time, and it very much felt like that. I love that little nod to it.
It had that aesthetic, I guess, in the old movies as well. That kind of.
Yeah, no, it did completely. Like it's very much an a classic adventure story in a lot of ways. And even the main theme that they use, like it has elements of a waltz to it, and I mean it had a very kind of classic 1930s kind of maybe early 40s vibe to it. Again, music that they would have danced to as a young couple. Music they would have listened to when they were first dating and first together. I think it was a smart decision to make music that evoked the era that when their love started. Very 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 clever decisions made.
I think like both of them kind of have that. Obviously, probably more so it up, but they both have that kind of that center or that kind of main theme with variants on it.
Yeah.
And then I think the kind of stuff with the action or adventure part is fine, but doesn't stand out as much as them. They're kind of overshadowed by the signature scores.
I agreed, but I think that's probably, and again we're kind of drifting a little bit, but well, at least I'm about to. That's probably mirrored by the emotion as well. Like the parts of this film that I remember when I leave isn't the action scenes, even though there's nothing wrong with them, they're quite thrilling to watch, and they flow very well and they add to the film. But no one's walking out of that cinema to either of those films saying, "Oh, do you remember that action scene?" Nobody is saying that. They're talking about the emotion and the weight and the impact of the characters and the story. But yeah, I think that's kind of me on Up. Are you ready to vote?
Yeah,
Or-
I think I'm ready as well.
Okay, so I genuinely still do not know what I'm going to vote for. Genuinely, this is by far the closest
Mm.
I've ever been on a round. But so I'll let you go first. Are you close as well?
Yeah, it's close. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think, as I said, both of them have
Yeah,
a really,
yeah.
really good signature score.
Yeah.
I think I'll give it to Wally just because it has that song as well
Yeah.
to kind of consolidate the great score. Like, they both have great scores, but I think Wally has that song which he uses quite well. Joe was with the echo effect as well later.
Mm.
And which is strange because when the film started, as I said, I was like, oh god. And then I really liked it. So
Yeah.
I think I'm going to have to go with Wally.
Go on, Wally. Okay. I think I'm gonna go with Up.
Is this the first time
It is the first time
we have disagreed?
we disagreed.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going with Up, and I'm good. There is only one reason why. The only way I could separate them was I saw both of these. I saw Up when it came out in 2008, wasn't it? 2008.
Up was 2009.
2009. I saw Up in 2009 when it came out. I saw Wally, I would say probably about 2 years later, maybe. It was 2011. And I've seen both, I'd say maybe once or twice since then. Like, I've seen them both an even amount of times. And the last time I saw them would have been over 5 years ago for both of them. So, like, they're very much, I've experienced them a similar amount of time and a similar amount of times in my viewing. And if you asked me to whistle the music from Wally, I wouldn't have been able to. If you asked me to whistle the music from Up, I would,
Yeah.
and that's why I gotta go with Up.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. I think we both gave kind of solid reasons why
Yeah.
we feel one tipped the
Yeah,
other.
yeah. I mean, I could very easily have gone for Wally, and I'm sure you could have easily gone for Up as
Yeah.
well. Like, it's one of those. But okay, 1-1 going in, the first time it's ever happened.
And another first is coming up because the next round is a first.
Round 2, visuals.
Not what's the action?
Not
usually
action, not special effects. We went with visuals because a couple of reasons. One, obviously, I mean, even though there is actually action in both of these films, they're not the driving force. They're not a major element. They're a small bit of the movie. But the visuals in these films, the visuals in any film is very important. But both of these films were kind of early Pixar. They led the way in a lot of innovative animation techniques, and interesting ideas, and just I think the cinematography is beautiful in both, and in very different ways, which we'll get into. But yeah, I think we definitely both agreed that visuals was the standout category to kind of go with.
So I'm just thinking of I had no idea what I'm going to vote for in this one.
I think I do. For me, I think I have mine in this one. But interesting to hear your thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll start off with Wally.
Okay.
So again, we're kind of covering some ground we covered a little bit before, but so we start off with the majestic beauty of space, and you see this, just like completely untouched. Oh yeah, but like untouched beauty, like just completely without fault or a speck of dirt. You know what I mean? Like it just looks perfect,
pristine.
And then you turn to Earth, and Earth, you recognize Earth straight away, and you see that it's surrounded by crap. Okay, you're like, okay, there's satellites, whatever, and then but then you can see like smoke or clouds or something like in the atmosphere, and then you break through the atmosphere, and then you see how disgusting Earth has become, and that dichotomy, that juxtaposition for your kids learning words at home. Once again, we'll use it, of the clean visuals of space jumping straight into the filth of the state of the Earth at this point in the film. I thought it was just an excellent transition.
What was interesting though as well is I just touched briefly on the space thing for a minute. I think I already mentioned that it did remind me of Star Trek as well, just to look at, but it was really pristine and yeah, it looked beautiful, but the detail is really what got me in it. But when you come to the rubbish kind of cities, it's weird because you said it's opposite, but it's beautiful in its own way, because the fact that the rubbish is made up of these buildings, it actually looks really nice to look at. Do you know what I mean?
You mean it's aesthetically
yeah,
pleasing?
aesthetically pleasing, exactly. And then there's that lovely overhead shot as well of the whole city
Yeah,
directly above.
it is shot
Yeah,
beautifully.
it's really, really cool.
What one thing that reached out to me as well is when we're in that opening scene, or where we're seeing Wally do his thing, and this tiny little speck of a robot against this gargantuan mountains
Mm.
of rubbish, and then rolling through the streets of emptiness and dead Wallies, like corpses of maybe his friends. I don't know. Maybe he's the only. I suspect that he's probably the only Wally to kind of gain this level of sentience. Like over 700 years, obviously he's moved past his programming or
Mhm.
his directive, as we'll hear
It's like
about.
if data evolved.
Yeah, I know exactly. I mean, he's classic AI, classic robot, classic cyborg, moving past the initial programming.
And
But just one thing, just when we see him rolling through the streets, the only thing you see that really stands out in that bright sense is the neon signs for the BNL. The same, like the businesses, the corporations, more so than business, the corporations that have destroyed the earth, they still look perfect. Everything else is destroyed. Everything else is broken down. Wally is rusted and rickety and creaking and a mishmash, Frankenstein's monster of parts. But these neon signs of this kind of the worst part of capitalism on display
mm.
are still perfectly preserved. And I thought it punctured, it pushed that image quite well, that message of what was the cause, you know.
I was just really taken by the details and stuff. Like there's just some close up of like when he's goes into his little kind of base area,
Yeah.
and he's got that toaster, and it's like when he pulls out the videotape, just looking at those great detail in them.
Yeah.
When you see him, I was like, I found that really impressive, just how the amount of detail in them, and
Yeah,
how
there's
specific
yeah.
the design went, the work that was done by the animators were.
Oh,
You know,
massive,
it was
massive attention
really,
to detail.
really good.
I was watching another documentary about it. I have Wally on Blu-ray with the special 2 disc edition with the extras.
Good fan.
And in it, there's one bit where they discuss one shot. But one thing they say in that, and what they're discussing the shot is, I think it's one of the producers says that if one talented artist was capable of, say, animating every piece of this film, and they decided to do that, it would take them around 450 years. That's how much work goes into these movies. Like, so when you say the detail, I mean, you're absolutely right. Like the a detail that would go into a background element, you know, like a little Zippo lighter that is seen for maybe a second.
Yeah.
I mean, there are items that in there that are detailed to the same detail as maybe the cockroach, and they're on screen for a second. Um, those extra steps they go add so much. And one thing I kind of I sort of bringing in on here, because I noticed it first when we're in that scene in Wally's apartment. I like calling it his apartment. Um, is it's something that I've never really seen before in an animated film. But I don't know if you noticed it or not. But you know what I mean? Obviously, in a film, you have rack focusing. So you have something in the foreground, something in the background, and then you shift focus to to the thing in the background, and then the thing in the foreground is now out of focus. And then you can shift focus again, and now the thing in the foreground is in focus, and the thing in the background is out of focus. They use that in this film. Now, obviously, like there is no camera. This is just people's, you know, drawings, or, you know, photo scans combined with drawings. Essentially, is what we're watching. So they, after the fact, studied, you know, cinematography proper, how cameras work, and added in afterwards those visual effects of a camera focusing, because that's kind of how we see as humans. Like if you ever like notice, if you put your hand up in front of your face, you kind of goes out of focus, but you can see in focus something, behind it. But then you move your hand away, and now you focus on your hand. Now the thing in the background is now out of focus. I mean, and that's why film works so well, because it mimics how we see really closely, and it's a great little detail they go into that they don't need to do. Like, it's not done in Up, and Up still looks fantastic, but it's done in Wally, and I noticed it and I loved it. I love those little extra miles that they go
Go
to just enhance your experience.
I kind of liked as well how when Wally's kind of rambling around, kind of doing his work, his arms are like placed like a T Rex, just kind of by the chest, just little
Yeah,
on the shelves, kind
yeah,
of just like they're just like hovering there.
yeah. His shape is he reminds me a little bit of it was Short Circuit. It was this movie I think from the 80s about a robot and it was a little kid. It was one of those typical. It was pretty crap. It was like one of those ET ripoffs, about a creature from out of town or whatever that comes along and meets a child and they develop
Bond.
a bond and shenanigans ensue. Um, it's not a great movie from what I can remember. But just the visuals of him kind of reminded me a little of him. I think even if that's the right movie, I could be mixing up a different movie because I haven't seen it in about 25 years or more. But
Even though like he doesn't like have a traditional face, but
yeah.
you still see sadness in his eyes
Oh yeah.
or happiness or you see all those emotions just in the eyes. The eyes are um really what kind of cements the character.
Yeah, and then, like it's like with with humans, the eyes are the window to the soul, and it's the
Yeah,
same here. It really is.
and it's the same with Eve as well.
Yeah,
Like her eyes as well are very expressive. There's a nice bit where like when her and Wally, she's hiding Wally. I think it's like in there some area in the ship anyway, and you see she kind of the way her eye kind of goes to the side. You see she's peeking basically, but you can tell even though it's not the way we're used to seeing people peek.
yeah,
You still know what she's doing. Like it's just
yeah. Like
really
Eve is
cool how the
almost
eyes.
like an emoticon
Yeah, yeah.
in a lot of ways, which kind of I think represents the future as
Mm,
well. While Wally is that kind of more industrial
yeah.
past. Um, Similarly, like when you see Wally on the ship and
Hmm.
everything is clean and blue
Gliding
and
along. Yeah.
the lighting is all like so well lit, but when you
Mm,
compare it to the romance of Wally's apartment, where he has the little fairy lights and he has the light of the
mm,
screen and he has the light of the lighter, um, and even the light of Eve,
yeah.
her eyes.
But he's very much old school. Like even they said like the old film he's watching in the black and white. It all kind of he's more kind of the past, I guess, and
Yeah,
they're kind of the
yeah,
future, more advanced.
yeah, 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 and you see that, yeah, you see that in his design definitely. Let's go down through it. Yeah, okay, so let's move on to.
Up.
Oh, no, I have a few more things
Oh,
on
sorry.
Wally. Sorry, just kind of move on just a little bit onto the humans. So the design of the humans. So they're quite they're quite odd looking, I mean, and um, I think I wasn't sure what the story was, and then when it's explained that over say 600-700 years in space, because of a lack of gravity, humans have evolved. Um, they don't need to walk around because there's way less gravity pulling them down, so their bones change, their bone mass is reduced, and then because their bone mass is reduced, they're not walking as much. Because they're not walking as much, they get heavier and their shape changes. And then but then also the fact that we'll go into later, but the fact that the machines are controlling every aspect of their lives. I mean,
Mm,
they're essentially babies. They're giant babies. But their design was is quite striking. It's not an image that I don't think anybody wants to achieve for
mm.
humanity. Um, Let me see, what else did I have? Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So I love them with the humans. I
I knew
love
you
them.
were going to have way more than me on the visual aspect. I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, I'm a graphic designer and artist, and Liam isn't. So all fairness, I get off on this stuff. So I loved, like, for example, that they're all in like the one color, all red, and then it's like, oh, blue is the new red, and then they all turn to blue. But then John and Mary, lovely couple, wake up. Well, Mary wakes up after she meets Wally, and John wakes up after he meets Wally as well. And then they bump into each other and they truly wake up. But in that process, Mary turns color to red. John turns to red when Mary bumps into him, and so now the two of them, they're the only two that are really awake, and they're looking out, watching the stars. They see um, Wally and Eve dance, and they're the only two that are in red, while everybody else is in
I
blue
didn't notice
on
that.
their tracks.
I
Yeah,
didn't pick up on that.
it was a nice little
Was that when
moment.
they were in the pool?
No, no, no. Afterwards, and then just after that, then they're in the pool. But that's the
Oh.
moment when they just bump into each
Yeah,
other,
yeah.
and in that process, he turns from blue to red, and she turned to red earlier just after meeting Wally. Um, yeah, so it was a lovely little visual there. Also the fact that, that everyone has their head in the screen. I mean, obviously, clear analogy to phones, mobile phones, and
And to be
tablets.
honest, even back then, it probably wasn't like
As
as
prominent. Yeah,
prominent
no,
as
you're
it is
right.
now.
You're right.
It's like
Yeah,
it's
it's even
crazy.
more even a better analogy now.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier about the design of Otto as Hal. Just again, I'm trying to go through a little bit, just some of the things I had. Oh yeah, I like the fact that like in the background, the captain's portraits to show Otto in the paintings becoming more and more prominent in the background, as each captain moves on, progresses on through. As each new captain comes along, you see Otto becoming more prominent and more prominent and more prominent in the background until this you get to a stage where the humans basically have no control. I mean, the captain's role at this point now is a token role. There's no he has no real power, and Otto is in complete
Yeah, you
control.
see, because even he's always trying to like, when he second guesses himself, Otto's always like, no, no, we'll just do it this way. He's always
Yeah,
trying to, oh, sure, we'll do it this way. He's
yeah,
always
yeah,
trying
yeah,
to control and diminish any change in the usual structure of things.
yeah. And then the final thing that really stood out to me, what the time two things. One is the when they're panning out just after Wally wakes up, and him and Eve are together, and everyone is happy, and they're planting the plant, and they zoom out and you see all of this green growing up through the soil, and that the earth wasn't just one plant. The earth is starting to flourish again. It's hope for the future. But the thing that really started at the end that I loved was the montage, the visual montage at the end. So it was like an epilogue. So when it's during the credit sequence where they show kind of the story of Wally and Eve and the humans working together to reform and
Yeah.
rebuild civilization. But what I really loved was how they did it. So it starts off with cave painting style art. So the earliest known art by humans is the cave paintings in France. I think they're like 35,000 years old or something like that. And then we move on to Egyptian style, and then to Greek, and then Roman, and then we go on to I think there was I think I'd say it's kind of early etchings. We had Renaissance, we had Leonardo da Vinci inspired. Then there was like a watercolor that I couldn't quite pick up on. Then we go into the Impressionists. I think it was Monet. There was Renoir, and then we finish off with Van Gogh. And I love that evolution. So it's the evolution of humans and robots together rebuilding society, saving the earth, the green flourishing, and then it ends with the roots of the tree coming down into the little plant in the boot, the thing that saved it all, the spark, the seed of humanity coming back, and robots joining them on Earth. It was it was a beautiful sequence. I really love that.
I think I know we're going to be a winner for that. But look, you haven't got to up yet.
No. So we're going to up. You can start on up.
Well, I think just you kind of touched on it, but I did really like the aesthetic they got on the old kind of film he was watching. When you see all the reporter guys with those with kind of the top hats,
Yeah.
and Muntz giving his speech, when the scandal comes out. It just had that air of that era, which I thought was really nice.
The old classic
captured
the classic news
they captured
reels.
that really well. But I love the shot. I kind of don't know, but you know the shot where the balloons go up and the storm. You see the storm coming from behind. I know you kind of talked a little about that as well, but that was a really nice visual. You see it just going into the clouds, and you kind of the storm that's kind of about to encapsulate it. it was very kind of menacing and foreboding, kind of, because adventure is not always fun. There's always going to
No,
be
no,
a
there's
sense of
always
threat. They're in danger
there's
too.
always the scary moments.
Yeah.
Speaking of the balloons, like for me, the balloons is probably the most important, in a way, the most important visual motif throughout the whole film. So obviously you have Muntz's blimp, which is a giant balloon, and he inspired Carol's love of balloons, because you see him walking home from the
Mm.
newsreel with a blue balloon and it says the spirit of adventure on it. So he's pretending that's his blimp, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going along with Muntz's blimp, and that's the same balloon that he hears Ellie goes in, and that's how they connect over that balloon.
Mm-hmm.
She sends it, sails over to him. She retrieves it after she was sad for him after he broke his arm. And then they go on and they get a job together in the zoo, and he's selling balloons, and then we move on again through it, and on her deathbed he sends the balloon into her the same way.
Kind of full circle, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
he has balloons at her funeral. But he's seen there with his balloon. I just finished it off just to go through the,
Yeah.
the whole balloon thing. Um, so then obviously the classic image of Up that everyone remembers, the house with the balloons up through the chimney, and the beautiful color. When he's sailing through the city and he moves past the little girl's bedroom,
Mm-hmm.
and you see those colors dancing all around her wall, and just the glee on her face. And
Yeah.
I think the glee of everybody as they see it, it's such a beautiful image. And but then it's his balloons versus Munt's balloons, and his balloons are colorful and bright and happy, and Munt's is a dark gray drab balloon. And I feel like the Carl's balloons symbolize making the right choices in life and choosing love and choosing Ellie, and the two of them together. That is the color. That is the color in their life. And Mons focused on the negative and focused on trying to get revenge and trying to save his name, and obsessing over something, and letting him literally drive him insane.
Mm.
And he is in that ugly balloon, while Carl had the beauty.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess you could say as well that Actually, no, I'll leave that point till we get to
Yeah,
categories
no,
because
it's
I want to
difficult.
say,
We always face this
yeah,
problem where
you
we
don't
can
want to
say
give it away because
something,
take it
but
out
then
of.
it's just not in the right
Yeah.
category. But
But there was a nice transition as well of like they show Carol and Ellie like from childhood, and then there's that kind of montage of them as a young couple, kind
yeah,
of with a lot of hope and things for the future, and then it kind of
mhm,
goes through. Obviously, she has I assume it's a miscarriage,
yeah,
and the trying to recover from that, and kind
yeah.
of they do, and then it's kind of into old age. It's a nice little kind of transition, little kind of piece
Oh, it's
with the
amazing.
music again accompanying it, which was really
Yeah,
nice.
it's stunning. I mean, we, we might go. Look, I don't know where to go into it, but I'll go into a little later, just in,
Yeah.
in more detail on that bit, just on kind of the story of it. But a couple of things that I loved in that sequence that stood out to me. There was two things in particular. One was when they're lying down in the field and they're looking up and they see the clouds and they see the turtle, and
Yes. Yeah.
and then they see the baby, and then they see all the babies.
Mm.
Just before that, you had they had the white clouds in the sky, and white clouds on the sky are a symbol of Pixar. And I wasn't sure if it was kind of a little Easter egg, because on Andy's room in Toy Story, he has clouds on a blue sky. That's the wallpaper in his room.
I didn't notice that, but you're probably right. If it's
So I thought not to say that every time there's clouds in a movie
yeah,
it's
that
just
it means it.
but just the fact they were focusing on the clouds and they were in these kind of fun shapes, which is similar to the shape. I wouldn't say the exact same or anything, but
Variation of it.
yeah, it felt. I thought anyway when I saw them, it reminded me immediately of Andy, of Toy Story, and
Mhm.
which it's kind of like Mickey Mouse is to Disney, Toy Story is to Pixar. It is the symbol.
Quintessential kind of.
Yeah, even yeah, even in the logo, the lamp. I think I think that's in Pixar. It's in Toy Story as well, but I love that. But there's a shot they have. And it's a very different type of shot. It's a very subtle shot, but it's just after they come home from the hospital, and it's Ellie sitting outside on a chair, and Carl is just looking out the window at her. And he's obviously worried about her, and she's just sitting with her eyes closed, and her hair is just gently blowing in the breeze. And like, there's nothing said. There's nothing said throughout the entire sequence. I mean, it was just absolutely amazing. Actually, Wally does it as well. It's incredible what Pixar storytellers can do with no words. But there's so much said in that few seconds. Really, it's only there for about 4 or 5 seconds. And then Carl joins her, and you can see the kind of the strength that they share in that moment. There's a sense of resilience, but deep sadness as well.
Um, there was also a lovely shot of when he's like tugging the house along, and there's like a silhouette of him,
Yeah,
and you see the kind of I think the sun is rising.
yeah,
Um,
I think it is.
yeah, just coming up. 'Cause I think it had been just prior to that scene, it had been night, but it's the silhouette shot of him walking along the.
Do you know what it reminded me of?
Hmm.
Lord of the Rings.
Oh, the
Blood,
classic one,
blood was
yeah,
spilled this
yeah.
night. With that, but also that scene to that blood. I thought in my head it came in. I think it was in Legolas. It says blood was spilled this night
Yeah.
when they're chasing the Urukai. That's the one in my head. But yes, also the classic cover, the
What was the name of
poster.
what was the name of the place they were going to again?
Angel Folds.
Taking the Hobbits to Angel Falls. Sorry, don't know if it was worth it enough.
No, I don't know. Look, everyone gets one. um,
I just while we're laughing, I guess, we're throwing the shot of when Muntz is on like, well, where are they now? You just see Russell going
Russell,
along, and I instantly thought of Simpsons
Homer,
and
yeah,
Homer
yeah,
and
yeah.
the top
The
of the
church,
glass roof church, and
yeah.
oh my ass.
Two classic moments. Yeah, we both burst out laughing at that. It was done so well.
But even just Muntz's face, kind of just like, what the hell is going
Yeah,
on?
it's like,
How is this
where?
happening?
Find him, and then yeah, it was the setup of the joke was done so well as well.
I think just on what I was saying about like the great detail they had on in Wally on the videotape and the toaster. Again, this is a tiny thing, but just they kind of had after a while, Carol had this kind of like disheveled kind of stubble beard going on,
Yeah,
which I just thought was a great. Again, just this little detail. It's
yes.
small, but I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And
no, I,
something
I
noticed
agree. I
that,
agree.
like,
There's little details that you don't even notice you notice,
Mm.
but if they weren't there, it would just slightly take away. And they're just little touches that ground it because obviously it's not real. Well, we all know it's not real, but when you're watching a story and you get involved, those little details just help it feel a little more. It's like when you see. Mentioned this before, but like when you see like bad CGI and it takes you out of it, and even if you see like average, practical effects, the fact that the lighting is the exact same, you just kind of feel like you kind of believe it. But when you see terrible CGI, it just takes you out of it straight away. So like, and it's one of those. Obviously, this is computer generated imagery, um, and those little details like the specks of stubble, the white stubble on his chin, um, just help ground it to a level that you don't need to do, but it's appreciated. I love that. One just before that, just before Russell being streaking across the grass, you have him hanging on the rope, and the dogs in the airplanes shooting at him. And again, I thought of King Kong. There's the scene where Kong's on top of the Empire State Building and all the planes are coming and
Yes.
firing at
Oh,
him.
yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And I very much,
Because the
again,
planes were of that kind of
yeah,
ilk.
yes, completely. And again, it's the reference I think to Kong earlier, and it's that era that Carol grew up in. I think it was another nod to King Kong, which I liked. And then you have, and I told you earlier about the balloons and everything. But at the very end, where Muntz, he's taken down by Carol's balloons. Like the Carol's colored balloons take him down to his doom.
Yeah.
And like the man that inspired him to have those balloons is killed by those balloons.
Interesting.
But I loved the shot of Ellie, the house, sitting on the top of the waterfall in the mountain in a perfect replica of the drawing she had done as a child.
Mhm.
It was
Poignant.
yeah, poignant, yeah, very much so. But a lovely shot visually as well.
Because you didn't know where it actually ended up for a while. Because this
No.
went down, floated off, and
Yeah,
it was kind of him. I guess that's kind of my character.
yeah, no, it's fine. But it's him. It's him letting go. But I think. Oh yes, one last thing I had on up was Ellie's badge, the grape soda badge.
The one he gives to Russell at the end.
Yeah, and she gave it to him,
Mm.
and then he bestows it on her. Because the whole point is how Russell meets Carl is he's looking for a badge,
Yeah.
and what he's really looking for is acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
And because he's trying to fill the hole that he hopes his father will come back. Again, we're going into character now, but that that badge, and the fact, like, if he just put pinned that badge on him and said this is the Ellie badge, it wouldn't have the same weight. But the fact that they set it up over and over again, and he gets as a kid, and then the story of the two of them, and Carl is wearing it throughout the film, and then he gives it to Russell.
Yeah,
He's
that
earned
adds
it.
more weight to it. Like.
Way more. I know that was a beautiful moment. That's me on up. You anything else?
No, I had a lot less than you on the visuals. There's a lot of stuff you picked up on that I'll be honest, I didn't pick up on.
Well, to be fair to you, I've seen it like 3 or 4 times, both of them, and you've only seen them once, I think.
Seen Up once, I hadn't seen Wally.
Oh yes.
And Up was like over about 7 or 8 years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah. Okay, so I'm ready to vote.
I'm gonna let you go first in this one.
Okay. Okay. So on this, I thought both had beautiful visuals, and sometimes very different styles of visuals. Like I said, probably the shot that I remember the most in Up is the shot of Ellie in the chair with her eyes closed. It's a very personal, small, in scale but huge in weight moment. But I have to give it to Wally. Wally has those moments. Maybe not quite as maybe. I don't know actually. Maybe I'm not sure. Yeah, no, but I give it to Wally because Wally has. I feel like those moments in that style, but it also just some of the shots of the city, like we discussed earlier, and the shots of space. When he's riding on the ship and he puts his hand through the ice rings of Saturn. Just such beautiful pieces, and then you have the small moments. His apartment, I love his apartment so much. So I give it to Wally.
I think I'll give it to Wally as well, just on those opening shots with the space first, and then obviously as I said the overhead shot of the city, and the fact that the rubbish kind of is built up like buildings.
Yeah,
it's a really interesting aesthetic. So I think just for that probably is what we give it to Wally. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Wally.
Okay, so it is. So what that makes it 3-1.
3-1, yeah.
To Wally. So far, okay. So, Up needs to take the final 2 to take it to a draw.
Which would be the first.
Have we discussed what happens with a draw?
I think did we just
leave it at a draw?
No, I think
Americans
have like a bonus round or something. I know we did with Robocop and Terminator, but it wasn't to determine anything. Did we just kind of say
maybe just say what we'd rate it? Yeah, maybe just what we should prefer as a movie. If you're watching one again, what is the first one you pick? Yeah. We have to go with that. We'll go with that. Yeah. We definitely should have discussed this beforehand. I think we did. We never ended.
I could have done any of them. Like I didn't know what last week was Raid and Dread. I didn't know.
This is the first time we've screened anything, so I'm really excited to see what happens in the final round. Because again, for me, it's very close. Okay, so we'll start with Wally.
Round 3.
Oh, sorry, you're right. Round 3, characters.
Reminding your cues, you know you weren't an actor.
No, I'm the director. I need somebody below me to, check those things.
Talking prop.
Yeah. Okay, so
for all you actors out there, I'm an actor as well, so don't take offense to that one.
Yeah. If you have any roles you want to send Liam's way, And I'm a graphic designer, freelance, so anything you want to send my way, sure. Okay, so moving on. starting off with, I think Wally. We'll start with Captain. So he very much represents humanity in this, like humanity where they are at that point in the future. Um, and like so, the theme of Wally for me is twofold. One is finding love and companionship, but two, it's breaking away from the path set before you, not accepting what life has led up to this moment, and deciding, no, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I don't want to make that decision. I don't want to be with this person. I don't want to do that job. I want to do something else. And getting off of the path, off of the track that we see the humans and the robots travel in so much, changing our directive and and making another decision. So at the start of when we first meet the captain, he's very much not that. He's on the track. He's doing exactly what he's been told by Otto. He has a title and little else. Like he's so annoyed that he missed the morning call because the only thing he gets to do in the entire day, and he missed it. But you can tell that beneath the surface, there is a yearning for something more in him. And you see that when he finds out about the possibility of a plant, and Otto was like, "Oh, go to bed. You know, you look at too much like a baby again. Like he's been treated like a baby," and he dismisses his advice, and he goes on what I can only describe as the greatest Wikipedia fest of all time, and he basically discovers everything there is about humanity, or at least everything he learns, like everything he learns in that time is new information about what farming is, what dancing is, what culture was, all of these things. Um, and you see that there's a little spark, and once the spark is lights the fire, he's a new man. He's a different person. And I think it's that represents us, and says, not to accept your lot in life. Reach for the stars like Wally does.
Yeah, just like on just another note on him, I kind of thought he was going to be like a villain of the piece.
Oh,
like,
really?
Same with Eve, but I think with Eve it's more natural to expect that because you see her trying to attack Wally when you first see her. But yeah, I thought that was going to be Wally's mission to try and like rescue Eve, and everyone on the ship was going to be against him. I didn't see it as they were going to become allies almost. So I kind of saw him just as being another. I saw him as being like a kind of a mouthpiece for the main
For Otto.
For Otto, yeah. But I thought he was going to remain with Otto as an ally against.
So, at what point did you realize that that wasn't the case?
Well, the fact that when Wally is seen, he doesn't kind of like. I thought when people
So
saw
pretty
Wally,
early on then.
Yeah, early on, because I thought when they saw Wally, they were going to be like, "What this person doing here? Or this thing doing here?"
Well, did you kind of
They look at him kind
set
of
that
like,
up? Like he's like, "What the hell is that?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Why is he so filthy?" Getting cleaned up or whatever.
I just thought that there was, the way I anticipated it was that it was going to be more of a hostile reception for him, and that the captain was going to be a part of that process of
Yeah, but
people and machines against him.
And then after you learn that he's not, did your opinion change a lot on him? Like, did you come around on him?
Yeah, obviously, like he like the other that couple as well. Kind of
John and Mary.
They're kind of seeing the more to it than just like, looking into your whatever that screen was and just sitting still and just kind of your tiny little bit that you say or do, and that's it. Kind of, there's a lot more that they can. See, an awful lot more that they can seek out and
the
find.
Captain John and Mary kind of go on a similar journey, don't they?
There's feels there's a lot more potential that they can do to help themselves and help others.
Yeah, and they make a sacrifice and they save the babies and all of that. But I feel like the Captain summed up humanity, like the humans in this film, and I suppose all of us today in real life as well, when he says, "I don't want to survive, I want to live."
Yeah, that was powerful.
And that is the message of the movie. I think one of the two messages of the movie. But we move on to Eve.
Eva.
Yeah. So like the Captain, when we first see her, she is a slave to her programming. So she like almost kills Wally a couple of times. She almost kills the cockroach. She reacts almost immediately, and you do look at her and you're like, what is her problem?
I was like, oh, this is one of the antagonists.
Yeah.
So like that's what I was assuming.
but well, I think what led me to realize that wasn't the case was two things. One was Wally's reaction to her, but two was when she's looking around searching for the plant life after she's dropped off from the spaceship. But the spaceship flies up into the air, and she looks up, and as soon as it's out of sight, she stops working and then goes for a fly. She takes a moment to enjoy the freedom of being out, and you can see that she wants to live.
I said that could be the first hint that she wants more than what.
Yeah,
she's getting.
like the captain, she has her programming, but she's yearning to break free from it. Maybe she's not even realizing that she's yearning to break free from it. But this is her taking maybe her first step towards that.
But I think essentially it is then Wally is the reason that she changes and becomes this like him, a lot more humane in how she acts and treats.
Yeah, and I mean,
especially when she sees that video, that security camera video of him waiting with her when she's like almost like in that coma thing.
Yeah,
for so long.
I think that's the moment she realizes she loves him. Is at that moment. But just a little before that, when they have that, the first time they kind of connect proper is in his apartment, and he's showing her his trinkets, and she's interested. She enjoys them as well. She's fascinated by them, and they have the connection straight away. It's like anything, if you're looking for a partner, you want somebody who you share things in common with. You have similar hobbies or whatever. And the fact that,
very much so.
Yeah, the fact that she was intrigued by his interests, and he was so excited to show them to her. Like he obviously, as we know, they set it up so well. Like you just see how lonely he was, and now somebody's come to visit, and they like
is enthusiastic
his
about
things
things that he likes,
that he has picked out. It's a lovely little setup of just the beginning of a connection between them.
And you also see like that she becomes extremely protective of him then as well, like, which again illustrates the development of their relationship. She's willing to sacrifice a lot, and she even then like she dropped the plant at one point and like going against her directive because she sees being with him is more important than what she's been programmed to do. I think for her as well, it's a more invigorating and sense of freedom. Even it's like you were saying about when the ship goes away and she flies off when she first lands down on Earth. It's like a bigger version of that.
Yeah, massively. I mean, again, it's like the captain. I don't want to survive. I want to live. And she has found something to live for with Wally. Surviving was following her directive. Yeah. But now she realizes there's more to life.
But it all stems from Wally. Like he's the
he's the catalyst for
everything and everyone
character.
Else. Everything happens to everyone else.
He is a ball of positivity. Well, I suppose we may as well move on to Wally. Unless there's something else you want to say about Eve.
Like I think there'll be stuff.
Like because there's stuff that could have said. But so
we'll see him as a package. In a way,
they are in a lot of ways, because a lot of stuff I was about to say there about Eve were just Wally stuff. So okay, so for me, Wally, he is the epitome of purity. He only wants to love and be loved. Immediately you just connect with this character. I mean, it's amazing. I felt it when Up as well. I mean, in the first 6 minutes of Up, how you connect with a character where there's no words. It's just visuals, but just the little sounds he makes, the little way he moves, the fact that he's kind of broken down and rickety, and he's doing his job, and and I think the first kind of moment, when you hear him whistling, when he's listening to that song from Hello Dolly, and he's whistling, and you just like him straight away. He's such a likable character. But you feel his loneliness. Like he
That's what I
really,
said. The first thing I had written on him was like just extremely lonely.
yeah,
But then like he's so good natured as well. Like he's like horrified when he thinks he squashed a
yeah, yeah,
cockroach.
yeah. That's another moment. Yeah,
He's so he said he wants to please everyone. He doesn't want to hurt anyone. But he's lonely and I think
but
those kind of characters you always gravitate towards because he's an underdog, complete
yes,
underdog.
100%.
You know.
But you know what else he is? He's a nerd. He is a full blown nerd. He collects trinkets, pop culture items, obsesses over films. Longs for that girl to show up. Um, and like I imagine, because obviously, as we said earlier, we saw loads of other dead Wallies
Mm.
along, and he collects parts and he uses them to kind of keep himself going. Um, but I imagine that he was unique among them. Like I imagine they probably may have scoffed at his collection.
Yeah.
That his hobby of collecting these things, because there's no reason why he should save items of rubbish, one thing from another. Like his sole directive is collect rubbish, form it into cubes, stack it. That's it. It's his directive. But for some reason, he has developed a consciousness and the want and the ability to decipher art from rubbish.
Hmm.
And he finds a trash can that to somebody else looks like rubbish, but to him it's a hat so he can dance and he can follow his favorite movie. Or he finds a lovely moment. He finds a diamond ring and throws away the shiny rock and keeps the lovely box.
Yeah.
I love that. And he keeps the Zippo lighters, and he has the bulb and the Rubik's cube and his little collection, and he has them all ordered away like nerds do, and he has them all sorted into different categories. Um, yeah, he's just so endearing, but he is a nerd. He is a nerd.
Even the way they himself and Eve like how they interact. Um, it's amazing that like it's so limited, but it still produces this kind of relationship and
Mm.
this powerful relationship that you're really engaged with, even though there's very little said. Just like there's Eva, Wally, don't or very very limited in what's said.
Yeah.
Yet it still can carry you for whatever it was, hour and a half, because they're the centerpiece of the story.
Yeah, massively so, and it's a testament to the director, the writers, and the animators, and the voice artists, and that they can do so much with so little.
It's interesting that like 'cause at the beginning of the film, he's kind of I know he's doing his work, but he's kind of looking for things to do as well. It reminded me a little bit of Waiting for Godot, in that kind of barren
Yeah,
wasteland, and you're just kind of there. And I know in Waiting for Godot, there's two of them. There's Vladimir and Estrogen, and he's on his own. But I had that just for a moment. I had that just reminded me a little bit of that. Where
yeah,
he's just waiting, just there waiting for something to happen.
yeah,
Waiting for something to change his
yeah.
circumstances. For him, it happened.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I can see that definitely. Um, one other thing is about him before we kind of move on to kind of more of the plot details of Wally that I feel he represents is, and obviously the whole point of his existence is to clean up rubbish, but he himself is a symbol of recycling. Like he literally is recycled. Like he has so many different Wallies joined together. He collects things, he saves things, he repurposes them.
Well, even like when parts of him are destroyed,
Yeah,
there's they find like replacements,
yeah,
like for the eyes and
yeah. It's all recycling. It's all
Yeah.
repurposing. He is a symbol of that environmental message of not to waste,
Yeah,
to
exactly.
reuse.
Yeah.
Not everything is rubbish that you think is rubbish. You don't just throw a pile of crap into a landfill. Look and assess, what can we save? What can we reuse? What isn't even broken? I used to work for an electrical company, and people would bring in their old TVs and they buy a new one, and they're working TVs, and you just throw them into a container. They're shipped off, then dumped somewhere. Like these are working TVs and working DVD players and washing machines, and it's really disgusting actually, the system that's set up. And Wally is this movie is the antithesis of that. But yeah,
But even the end, like just like going back to the end about like how he's the underdog and like you see like Eve, like how she hovers around with confidence and graceful. And Wally then is kind of hands clasped together. He's very nervous and tentative a lot of the time. Again, feeds into that kind of the underdog trying to get the girl, and kind of
Yeah.
he's really nice. He's very nice, and he's looking to do the right thing all the time. But he's there's a nervousness there as well
Oh
about
yeah,
how
like
to
like
attain that. You know.
massively. Like when you see when she's hibernating, not the major one, but when she's sleeping at night,
Mm.
and he makes a sculpture of her to try and impress her, and she just kind of strolls past it, and he has this. Oh, it's so sad. Like it's amazing what the emotions I felt during this film and up. It's it's really hard like to put into words. Like I care more about these characters than so many other movies with great actors in them. But yeah,
But even then, how you reverse it then at the end, it's like you've all that stuff you go through with him, and then when at the end he comes back and it's just like he's just like a regular robot, and he doesn't recognize
oh
her, and the
god,
roles are reversed because he's the one trying to bring the kind of humanity out in Eve initially, and then it's her
yeah.
trying to do it for him.
Joe,
So
Joe, Joe,
you
that
really
reminded me
feel
of.
that, and I thought watching because a friend of mine, because I was saying I'd never seen it, and she was saying, "Oh, you get ready to cry at the end." But I thought then I was like, "What, is he actually gonna stay like that?" I thought then like she wasn't going to fix him or bring him back, as he was. So I was like, "Oh my god, that's a brave move to take." Because I know like a lot of the themes and stuff is kind of more adults will pick up on it more maybe, but it's certainly a thing for kids as well. Like so I thought, geez, that's a brave move to if we're going to do that at the very end.
Yeah, but do
Um,
you know what that moment reminded me of? Was One Floor of the Cuckoo's Nest.
mm,
I want to try and
yeah,
avoid spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen that film,
yeah, I know the
but
bit, yeah,
you know what I'm talking about.
yeah,
And
very much
anybody
so.
who's seen it knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But that moment where you're like, "Oh my God, he's gone," is truly heartbreaking. Like it's just, as you say, the journey we've gone on with this little guy. He's finally he's sacrificed everything. And like he was willing. He's the one who, as we said earlier, Eve was willing to give up her dream of getting the plant and to save him, and he's like, no. He pushes her on. He's broken, and he's still holding up the machine to get the plant in. Like he's fighting for a planet, for humanity, and humanity has forgotten all about Earth, forgotten all about him. He's there alone for 700 years, and he's still fighting for it. And after all of that, we think he's gone. Oh my
Yeah, it's
God!
a horrible
Yeah,
moment.
yeah, massively so. Um,
Yeah. You ready
yeah,
to move on to
we'll
up?
move on to up. Sorry. We start with Doug.
Yeah, we can start with Doug.
I have Doug, Russell, and Carl. Who do you have?
Yeah, they were the three I had
Okay,
as well.
yeah. We'll start with
I had
Doug.
like a brief little mention
Okay.
of months and Ellie, but they'll come up as we're talking anyway.
Yeah,
so it's
yeah,
fine.
yeah. Well, I feel Ellie is
Yeah.
so intertwined with.
George,
Carl.
I'll start.
Okay, you start.
Yeah.
Go on.
But like, I just first thing I had was he's the personification of what a golden retriever is.
We have a golden retriever,
Yeah.
so well, it's Liam's technically, but I look after her as well. But yeah. So we very much know, and look, pretty much all dogs are like this, but it very much feels like Atia, doesn't it?
Just that hyperness,
Yeah.
the tongue out, always just. If you're talking to her, she's delighted. Like that's just
Yeah.
that's all she wants.
But yeah,
You know?
there's a shot of him when he's lying down and his tongue is hanging out, and he's just coming out of his mouth and hanging down, and I could not think of Atia at that moment. It was just like
Or
that
it
is
was
just
a tennis ball, and
Yeah.
he gives it back to him, and there's all the
the
drool, and it's like, oh, I've been there many times.
There's like I was saying earlier about the stubble with Carol, and that's another one as well. The little drool in the tennis ball, the little details. But as a character,
Well-
he is just a pure heart. Again, like Wally. Actually, he really reminded me of Wally.
Yeah,
A
he just wants to
pure
please
heart
and
looking
love,
for
and just,
love and a proper a master who isn't abusive.
Yeah, I mean, even he well, I noticed once like he's a character. He's not. He's a character. He's a dog. And like in Disney, the characters a dog can talk, but here he's a character. Okay, he's a dog. He can talk, but he's a dog that's like a dog.
Yeah.
He's not a dog that's a dog, but it's like a human.
No, he's not intellectual.
If you know what I mean, like, is in you see a lot of the dog canine characters in
Yeah,
Disney
he's
films,
not
and they
Mickey
talk like
Mouse.
they're
Like,
human.
he's not
But
Donald
he
Duck.
is
Yeah.
like a dog,
Yes.
even though he talks.
Yeah,
But he is like a dog.
he's not goofy. He's more Pluto if Pluto could talk. Yeah, no, very much. I love the way they did that with all the dogs.
Yeah.
And how they kind of used their grammar, and their grammar was just slightly incorrect, and how the syntax is just slightly off. But
But I love it somehow. The Rottweiler and the Doberman are villains because,
Yeah.
like, you know, when you think of
and the
just
bulldog.
because they're so aggressive
Yeah.
looking, that like they perfect. You know, just they fit that role perfectly.
You wonder why he ever had a golden retriever in the
Yeah,
first
he
place.
really did- he
Some of
really
the
did.
least aggressive dogs that that you could get. But just that opening one of the opening lines from Doug that just sums him up completely is, "I have just met you and I love you," which is dogs. But what's funny is Pete Docter, who directed this, he got that line from, it was I don't think it was his own child. I think it was a different kid he met. It was a toddler walked up to him and said that line exactly to him. "I have just met you," or I just met you and I love you. That's what they said. And so he was like, this reminded him. He's like, "Oh my god, it's like a dog. It's like a dog's love." And so he filed that away and used that. So I love the kind of where you get inspiration from.
But you even see that, like, he like risks his own life,
Oh,
puts
yeah,
on the line
yeah.
for Carol, and all he just wants is just love.
Love.
Let
That's
me
it.
love you.
Love,
That's all he wants.
love and
He doesn't, there's no
acceptance.
motives about anything
Yeah.
else. That's all a dog does want.
Yeah.
You know, again, I said it, they really encapsulate not just the golden retriever, but dogs.
Yeah, and
You
like
know, dogs are like that.
and he's trying his best to fit in with the pack he's in. You know,
And they treat
he's
him horribly,
desperate.
don't
Oh
they?
yeah,
You know?
they bully him so badly. His desperation to prove himself by capturing Kevin, but you clearly see his heart isn't in it. Like, he doesn't have a bad bone in his body.
And you come back in as my prisoner. Like, says in such a happy, enthusiastic manner. Like, Joe, we'll all be happy. You know?
It's
And then one of the saddest bits, stuff for me, probably for me, is the saddest bit for me is when he
bad dog.
say bad dog, bad dog,
yeah.
and then, like, just to walk away. He looks so upset and so
the tail between his legs,
yeah,
the
it's
head
horrible.
down. It is
Oh,
horrible
it's
to watch.
horrible.
But then when Carl is in on the flying up, and he opens the door, and Doug is there
hidden under
because
the porch.
of course he is.
Yeah,
and
because I hide under the porch because I love you.
Yeah, and Carl accepts him, and it's a beautiful moment. That love they share,
and again, it's just to be loved, to just be companionship. That's all he wants.
Not looking for anything.
Yeah, nothing else he
just
wants.
treat me
just
like
to
a
be there
dog.
with you in your
Yeah,
presence.
yeah.
That's it.
Which is exactly how dogs are. So it captured dogs perfectly.
But then it also captured a golden retriever perfectly as well, and the mannerisms.
It did.
That. But then what's nice is, like, you see then when Carol takes over Muntz's blimp, how all the other dogs then are with them, and it kind of shifts back to that thing of, like, how it's very rarely that a bad dog is just how the owner treats them.
Exactly.
And I like that they did that as well.
Yeah.
So you see the other dogs did have the potential to be good dogs
and
as well.
And even in the montage afterwards, where you see Carol, I don't know if Carl is living in Shady Oaks or not. It wasn't quite clear, but he, all the other dogs are visiting the old folks, and that was a lovely little thing as well. Again, like you were saying, to your point, that the dogs aren't evil. It was they were being trained badly. But I love the fact that Doug got the win over Alpha.
I didn't even realize it.
Yeah, and they all worshipped him. Not just looked up to him, more than worshipped him, but looked up to him. He needed that win. He deserved that win. We'll move on to Russell.
Yeah.
Okay, so Russell, I mean,
he's basically a male version of Ellie when she was a child.
He is, but he's also a human version of Doug.
Well, he's hyper, and his attention span isn't very long. He's kind of easily distracted.
But like Doug, he's looking for love.
Yeah, exactly.
He's loyal.
Yeah, and he's looking to include everyone. Like, he wants to include Kevin, include
Doug,
include them all in the party. He doesn't want to push anyone away. You know.
No, and
very loyal to his party.
Very loyal, and there's a deep sadness underneath him when you see, and you only see it for a few moments. And I'll be honest, I would have liked if we saw a bit more of that, of his. I know the focus is Carol and Ellie and their relationship, maybe I'm being a little critical. I'd have liked just a little more, just to crack open a little bit more of the Russell book, but just when he starts talking about his father and how his father, was it
But
was it
it's
clear?
his
Was it?
mother. It's his stepmother. Kind of does. Is
Yeah,
said to
she's
like
kind of separating them
you're
away,
annoying him or something like that, or he doesn't want
and
to.
so his father isn't showing up
Yeah.
anymore to his events, and isn't showing him how to set up his tent, and he doesn't know how to do all these things that his father should be teaching him, and all he wants is acceptance, like Doug, and all he wants is a father figure, where Doug wants a master. I mean, they're basically on
But
the same
if
journey.
you look at it early on, Lola, it's like that. Carol is in some ways he's like the opposite of Russell. So obviously he's an old man.
Yeah.
Russell's a young kid, but he is looking to be left alone. He's not looking for an ally or a companion early in the film. He just wants to go to that.
No, the opposite.
That's what I'm saying. Whereas Russell, that's what Russell wants.
Yeah.
Is just like a friend. Someone to kind of share all this with.
And be
and
there for him.
But then they both have had that loss. Like obviously, Carl's lost his wife, but then Russell, in a way, is losing his father because
Yes.
of his stepmother.
Yeah.
So there's similar. They're coming at there's similarities to their path they've come through, but in from other areas they come from a different point of view.
Yeah, no, completely, and obviously different parts of life as well. But like they have a very in the start in particular, they have very much a Dennis Mr. Wilson vibe relationship.
Yeah, definitely. Where he begrudgingly is letting him come along, but he's not too happy with it. But then as it goes on, he learns to like it. He actually really does like him.
Yeah, and really, like, it's Russell that saves Carol.
I would say it because I was to say whether it's wittingly or unwittingly, it is. He's the one who makes Carol look at things differently and start to kind of care for others again.
Yeah. If not for Russell, Carol would have become months.
Well, let's say Joe at the very beginning, like Carol is really quiet, and it's like Ellie that brings him out of his shell.
Yeah,
it's Russell that then does it again.
Yes,
years later.
Yeah, you're right. You're right there actually, and in a way, Russell is the kid they never had.
Mm-hmm.
And I never thought about that. That it's almost Ellie's spirit kind of in Russell, like, or at least a kindred spirit in Russell. Not that Ellie, not that Ellie is like been reincarnated into Russell or anything like that, but just that they both have a similar spirit about them, quality about them, and that they both bring out that side of Carol that maybe that had started to drift after the loss of Ellie, and he started obsessing over the wrong things.
Mm-hmm.
And Russell is the one that, as you say, inadvertently refocuses him just through his character and his purity.
Yeah.
But and he has a great quote when he's talking about his father, what he misses, and I feel it again symbolizes the film when he says, "I think the boring stuff is the stuff I remember the most."
Yeah. Which I think is true in life.
Yeah, and we will get into that again with Carl, but that very much is
and even as that line as well, then where he says "cross your heart," which is what Ellie, with that promise with Carol when they were children. The same thing. So I think we move on to Carl.
Yeah. So when he starts, when we start with Carl, we meet the young Carl. He's shy, inspired by Munce, but Ellie's as I was saying, Ellie's kind of the opposite. She draws him out of his shell, and we see the difference between both sides of them with their families. The wedding, where Ellie's are crazy and loud and shooting shotguns, and his are subdued, looked almost
kind of
Amish,
mundane,
nearly. Very plain and unvocal, or
very neutral.
dour almost. But they're the perfect foil for each other. They work so well together.
But even like it's obviously he loses Ellie, Then he kind of, because life happens, he loses that kind of hunger for adventure for a while. I think for Carol, he's very much always looking back to the past.
Yes.
In some ways it's good for him, in some ways it's bad for him, because by looking to the past, he ends up going on the adventure finally. But in some ways it kind of restricts him, because he's always looking back to Ellie, but it stops him from embracing others, like Russell, for example, or like Kevin, or like Doug.
Yes.
Initially for the first half or so of the film. So I think by looking at the past, it shows how it can be beneficial in some ways, but it can also be a hindrance in other ways.
Yeah, no, very much so. Like that's symbolized by at the end when he has to go after Russell, and he like we see. Remember when we're in the storm
Hmm.
early in the film before they even arrive in Venezuela, and he's like saving all the items that are falling off the walls, like
Hmm.
every picture frame, every item, because it's
Yes. Yeah.
Ellie.
Yeah.
All of that is Ellie to
Yeah.
him, and then he's got to save Russell, and he just dumps everything. He throws out. Not only is he throwing out like the things that are hanging on the wall, he throws out his chair and he throws out her chair.
Mm-hmm.
And on just on that before that moment, there is when he finally looks at the adventure book. He finally looks at my adventure book in the scrapbook because up until that point, he's never looked past the future pages that he wanted to fill that she never got to fill. And my guess is because she's in the in when she's on her deathbed, she's holding the book. So my guess is that she at that point she knew she was dying, and she filled it for him, and then she hands him the book, but he wasn't able to read through it. But when he finally looks at it again, he's in the house, and he's in a bittersweet moment of where he's achieved his goal of getting the house to the spot, but he's betrayed Russell, he's betrayed Doug,
Mm.
he's betrayed Kevin, and he knows that Ellie would be ashamed of him. And he's sitting there in that moment where he should be happy, he should be proud, but he's not. And he looks through the book, and because he should be proud because he's finally done this adventure she always wanted to do. And he opens it up and he realizes that he was the adventure. Their life together was
Mm.
the adventure. That's what she loved that life.
And I think that part of the reason why, up until that point, why he's so kind of he's quite cranky,
Yeah,
and kind of he's lonely after her death as well. And it's because when she dies, he realized he wasn't able to fulfill that promise to her
yeah.
about going on an adventure with
Also,
him.
he had purchased the tickets the
Mm,
day that he's
mm,
going to surprise her, and
yeah,
that's the day she falls ill. Like,
yeah. I'm just saying that that's kind of why up until he reads that is when he kind of realizes that their life was really
that was the
that was
adventure.
the main adventure. That
Uh,
was they really had their
as
adventure.
Russell said,
Yeah.
I think the boring stuff is the stuff I
Mm,
remember the most.
yeah.
And that line sets up that moment later on. That is it. That's Ellie is telling him.
And and that's a kind of it's important for him as well to see that like even though he had this harrowing loss, of Ellie, he can still live out the rest of his days and not just rot away.
Yeah.
And we see that
It,
when he goes up to for when Russell's getting the that presentation thing, for
the scouts or
yeah, the
whatever he's
scouts,
in.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And then you see also then he's Doug, he has Doug as his pet dog now
yeah,
as well, and he's able
yeah,
to kind of see that there's still he still has time to enjoy the rest of his life,
yeah. There's
and
life in the old dog. Yeah,
yeah,
and I think it's basically he's come to this perfect mix. He's not forgotten Ellie. He's
no,
honoring her.
yeah,
Like her badge is carried on
mm-hmm.
in young
Shane
Russell,
Russell, yeah,
who will carry it well, no doubt. Um, and he's taking on Doug, a new companion,
mm,
but he's not forgetting her. But he's not obsessing over her.
yeah,
He let, as we said earlier, he dumped out the items. He's let them go. The
mm-hmm.
physical items. She's not there. Now he's still the house floated away, and you didn't want it to crash into the ground, and it landed perfectly on top of the Angel Falls, and in that perfect, as I said earlier, the replica of the image she
It is
drew.
amazing that like even as I said earlier near the start of the episode that she's only in like the first 10 minutes, but
Mm,
you feel her presence
yeah.
throughout the whole film.
But yeah, and I just we haven't really got into that. In just for me, the opening 6 minutes of Up is the greatest short film ever made. Um, I don't cry at films. I don't. When I saw that in cinema. I cried.
So you do cry at films.
I do. That is I think one of only maybe two or three films that have ever made me cry, and that was one of them. And I was hinting at it earlier when I was talking about when I re-fell in love with Pixar. I forgot that Pixar was amazing. I saw Toy Story as a kid and I enjoyed it because it was a cartoon about stuff. And then I saw a bit of Toy Story 2, but I didn't finish it all or whatever, and I remember enjoying it. Then I wander into Up in the cinema, and it's me and my buddy, and we're surrounded by kids and parents with their kids, and I see that opening scene, and like tears are rolling down my face, and I'm seeing like kids, and I'm like, "Don't you realize what you're witnessing? Like, how dare you not be amazed and wowed by this? Like, get out of the cinema! You do not deserve to witness this." I could not believe what I was seeing. Like,
You can leave your popcorn there. I'll take that.
You know, I mean, like, because I've said this before in discussion of Up, not in the podcast, but just when I've talked about it previously. But like, I know we have there is talking with Ellie at the start, but in that sequence, that marriage sequence of their life together, there isn't a single word spoken. Like, all you're seeing there is ones and zeros. There's nothing there. There's no person there. There's no person speaking, and it's some of the greatest acting and filmmaking I've ever seen. You know, it's a testament to Pixar, and that's what woke me up to how great Pixar was. And then I was like, I gotta check out this other stuff, and then I found Wally, and I was like, oh my god, like, how did I not know this existed? Like, this is crazy. I always thought Pixar was just like DreamWorks, you know, fun family stuff, a bit hit and miss, blah blah blah. But I was like, oh my god, like, this is like, these are serious, amazing films, some of the best films I've ever seen, and like, I'm not a fan of romantic films. Like, I think I can count on one hand the amount of romantic films I can say I like, that I would consider buying on Blu-ray.
Mhm.
But both of these films are two of my favorite films of all time. And it's a testament to Pixar. And it's a testament to Up and to Wally.
I hope they're listening to this.
I'm sure they've heard it many, many times before. I'm not the first person to rave about how good Up and how good Wally is.
Do we?
Yeah, I think it's a good maybe moment to vote, and I'm going to ask you to vote because I'm still not sure.
I think we have one or
Oh.
two more things, but it doesn't. You can,
Okay,
No,
well-
no. I mean, it's in, as you said, it was perfect time to kind of go for the
Yeah.
Oh no, it's not. Well, could be crucial depending on how
Well,
these
yeah.
votes go.
If
Could
Up
go to a
gets
sudden
both,
death, yeah.
it'll go to sudden death.
So you want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go with Up for characters because I think you have Wally, who's a really, really likable character, but I think Carol has much better supporting cast behind him. You know, he has Doug, Russell, Kevin, plays his part as well. But then even Ellie, even though she's only in a few minutes, the presence of her, I think he is a better supporting cast. Definitely a better supporting cast. So I think, as a whole, I think Up has better characters. So I'm going to go for Up.
Okay.
Just before you give your answer, it's one thing. How the hell is Munt still alive? I mean,
He's not. Oh, sorry.
No, like before he has this fall.
Well,
because think about it. Like, Carol is like maybe like 5, 6, maybe.
He could be 7 or 8.
Okay, 7 or 8, but like Munt is definitely his 20s at the least.
Yeah.
So he's like Carol's about 70 maybe.
Yeah, so Muntz is maybe about 90.
Yeah, but he doesn't look. He looks younger than
Yeah,
Carol.
yeah.
Anyway, I wanted to touch on that. Anyway. Didn't go the way I was expecting it to go, but anyway, your verdict. So this is to get it to a tiebreak.
I know. I have to vote.
Oh, yeah, vote as you
I don't want to take it to a tiebreak just for the sake of it.
No.
I'm going to vote as I genuinely want to vote. I don't know how I want to vote. For me, it boils down to Wally versus Carol. I love Doug, and I love Russell, and I love Eve. I think Eve is a great character as well. But I mean, it's the protagonists. You know, it's Wally versus Carol. And I'm going to vote for Wally. I'm going to vote for Wally because I feel. Oh God, I feel that Carol. I mean, I've already spoken of how much I love this film. Carol is an amazing character. And you were saying earlier about the the supporting cast is better, is stronger in Up, and I think, I mean, it certainly has more good characters in Up than there is in Wally. But Wally is the best character in Wally, and Wally is in basically the entirety of Wally. Carol is in Up, but there is a little bit of focus and other characters come in. The God, I'm struggling to even verbalize this. I just
I've never
feel...
seen you go into as much detail.
because I
all the
feel like
episodes
I'm
I've come
betraying
before.
Up, because like I love Up so much. I just like it's is like a picking. This is Sophie's choice for me. It's like picking between one of your kids. Um, I gotta go with Wally. Just I've when I watched them this week, I have to go on that. And when I watched them this week, um, Wally was like 100, and Carl is like 99, and that 1% is extra, so I give it to Wally.
Pixar will be happy regardless. So.
Yeah, yeah. That was, oh my god, I'm sweating. That was difficult. That was not an easy decision
That's
to make.
two we disagreed on.
Yeah,
That's nice.
so that makes it is that 4-2 to Wally?
Yeah, I think so. So let's see. The first one you voted for Up, I voted for Wally.
Yeah,
Second one we both voted for Wally.
yeah. So it's
And last
3-1.
one I was Up.
Yeah,
You were
4-2.
Wally.
Yeah, 4-2 to Wally.
That's Pixar.
Yeah.
In
So
the
so I think going into this, you were a little reluctant, were you? Into these movies.
maybe yeah.
Did they surprise you?
Well, I'd seen it before. I remembered, being entertained by it. But there's elements in both films that have a lot of poignancy and emotion, and whether it's kind of the Wally, it's kind of that the kind of the loner, and he's kind of indecisive, and he's nervous, kind of things I kind of identify with a bit.
Yeah.
But then you have like the whole thing with Carol and Ellie.
Yeah.
That whole thing
Oh, yeah.
is very powerful. And then obviously stuff with Doug.
Yeah.
Having a golden retriever as well. No, I'm not even joking. Like,
No,
it
I
is.
know, and that's why I always felt Up was a perfect movie for you,
Mm.
because it's got amazing story, amazing characters, and it's got a golden retriever in it that shows a golden retriever exactly as how they are as characters.
It's the best golden retriever depiction since Shadow. Homeward Bound.
Yeah, and that's high praise coming from you,
Mm.
because Shadow is the reason why you have Adia. But I felt I picked these two movies. Well, one obviously because I absolutely love both of them. As I said, like, they are two of my favorite films of all time. There's no doubt about it. I think they're two of the best films of the last 30 years. Like, again, absolutely no doubts whatsoever. But what I loved about them is obviously about Pixar. But what I loved about them is that Wally is about the search for love, and Up is about dealing with the end
Of love.
of love. And it's a perfect cap, a beginning and an end, and a great way to go start off with Wally and end with Up. I think, even if you're doing a double bill of Pixar, it's a great two movies to put together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good way to close it out.
Yeah. So that was very difficult for me, but I really enjoyed it.
I said that's the most detailed, like, brief or deconstruction, evaluation, analysis that we've done of any of the films so far.
I enjoyed it thoroughly, but I'm looking forward to next week.
Well, I think we'll I guess when we tell them now what the plan is for.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
for October, it's just going to be all horror themed films. So we've
every Friday there's going to be a new episode like normal, but then on Halloween night there's going to be, I say Halloween night, Halloween.
It's going to be a bonus.
There will be an extra episode next month. just to put even more pressure on
Mm.
ourselves. Just we're starting off with this podcast. We decided, oh, let's just throw out 2 in 1 week. Sure, why not?
Because when we were checking to see is it falling on a Friday,
Yeah.
and we were like, no, it's Saturday. We said, oh,
We gotta
we'll
do
do an
it.
extra
We gotta
one.
do a Halloween
Yeah.
one.
So essentially, the next 6
Episodes will
episodes
all
are
be
going to be
horror.
So hopefully you like horrors. we actually haven't done any horrors yet because they've been
No, we were saving off for October.
Yeah, and then obviously we've had the Pixar one now as well. So again, it's going to be a big shift again. So we had the action battle kind of films, then to the Pixar, and then into horror.
Yeah. But yeah, so if you like what you hear, please like, comment, subscribe, follow us, share it if you can. Anybody you know that likes, people rambling for I don't know how long we've been on Pixar and then jumping on to some classic horror, which actually
Did we
next
actually
week.
mention-
No, we didn't. I was about to say
Yeah.
next week it is Night of the Living Dead versus 28 Days Later. Classic original zombies versus the kind of resurgence of zombies in the 2000s. It was around
2002.
2002.
And I guess
2000s.
it's kind of the quintessential American zombie film up against maybe the quintessential British zombie film. Maybe what's the one like the comedy one that came out 2005 would probably
Shaun of the Dead.
would probably rival it maybe. But
Yeah, I think some people, but
Mhm.
I think this is
for flat out horror.
I think it's a good mix.
Yeah.
You got your classic zombies, the film that started it all, versus the I mean I would say current, but that's 18 years ago now, which is kind of crazy. But
and then even then, like it's going to be a nice mix of the horrors that we
yeah, we're gonna try and
do.
mix up them.
Yeah,
We'll tell you each movies the week before, like always. But yeah,
we should
until
just again plugging if you want to
yes.
plug just about you can find us on Facebook, the Movie Battle Podcast. On Twitter, it's the Movie Battle Podcast again. There is it.
It's at Movie Battle 1, I think it is.
Okay.
I should check that. Just if you type in Movie Battle Podcast on Twitter, you'll find us. Or hashtag the MVP, I think as well. You should find us.
And then you can if you want to send us an email, it's the Movie Battle Podcast at gmail.com.
It is.
So again, if any feedback would be great. Just if any of you are recurring listeners, just even just the word say that you're enjoying it, or parts that you like, or parts that you think maybe we could tweak on, maybe improve on, any feedback would be great.
Yeah, we're open to any and all feedback.
Yeah.
We really would love to hear from you.
But with that, we'll leave it there. So
We'll leave it there. So.